What's that old saying? It's not the size of the boat, it's the motion of the ocean. What's up, crew? So today we're going to take a look at something I've gotten a lot of questions on, and that is the CR920XP, right? So this is the new flush comp version from Shadow Systems, and it seems to be that we finally have just about everything we could possibly want in an extremely small package. Now, if you are unfamiliar with what the Shadow Systems CR920XP is, this is basically the Glock 48 size of a pistol with a flush comp on it. Now, I have tested a bunch of different Shadow Systems pistols, not only here on the channel, but over the past couple years, probably in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 of them, and I've had a really good experience with them. But when I was doing the initial testing with this one, I thought I might have had a little bit of a problem. That first 75 rounds for me, I did have some extraction and ejection issues, which is a little bit odd since I've had a bunch of Shadow Systems pistols, and generally what I do is I dry fire them, clean, lubricate them a couple times, and then when I hit the range, I usually don't have a problem, or if I do, it's like maybe one. So when I got out there on this one and that first 75 rounds, I had a few issues. I was kind of like, oh, maybe I got a problem, because any company can have an issue. But once I got past those first few mags, the next 300 rounds looked like this. Now, if you don't know this, Shadow Systems does have a break-in period. After all, it is a mechanical device, and that's why they send you Lucas oil, so you can actually conduct that break-in processes, which is right around 200-ish rounds. Now, Shadow Systems did supply this pistol. They've supplied many others. I've bought several other Shadow Systems, but you guys all know that if something comes up in a video or during testing, you're gonna see it on camera because nobody gets a free pass. But again, Shadow Systems not even gonna care. They tell you there's a break-in process, and again, that's why they supply you with Lucas oil, so you can break the thing in. One thing I've never had a problem with is the crew over at Brownells. They're a big supporter of the channel here. They help keep everything here fed and going. They actually supply a lot of the product. That way I can stay as unbiased as possible and get things through a third-party source. They also make sure that I can maintain my website, which is where all the parts lists and build lists and everything is gonna be hosted there, so you can check that out, do all of your own research. I will also put a QR code up here in case you're watching this on TV, so you can scan it and check everything out. Another big supporter is HRT, and since this video is launching on Veterans Day, they wanted to do a big Veterans Day giveaway with me, which they pretty much do every year. So we're gonna give one lucky viewer a full plate carrier loadout. So make sure you comment down below in the video, and there is a link down there so you can sign up, get set up with that, should you wanna get yourself a free plate carrier. It's the one I use, it's the one I carried at work, and I definitely trust the kit they make. So check that link out down below. It'll be the first link in the description for the build list, and the second link will be the entry for the HRT kit. Let's go ahead and finish up with the performance of this pistol, because that's where the rubber meets the road. So let's talk about recoil reduction due to that compensator. It is noticeable, even on 115 grain ammo, but where it's really going to shine is that high pressure stuff, the plus P ammunition, the self-defense stuff. That's where you're really going to reap the benefit of a comp. So when you're out there, you know, that range ammo, maybe a little bit of snap, right? But when you get into the plus P stuff for most people, that can get a little bit spicy. I've actually seen people fail qualifications when they're used to shooting 115 or frangible ammo. Then they take their pistol out with their duty ammunition, that plus P stuff, and they can't hit the broadside of a barn. That's pretty common. Something like a compensator can help alleviate that, because not only is it going to keep the muzzle rise or muzzle flip down, it's going to overall give you less felt recoil. The muzzle rise less, which means targets, sights stay on target easier, dot stays on target easier. So it can make your life a little easier. It's definitely a nice upgrade. It's not a crutch, however. And besides those first few mags you saw, there were zero issues with reliability or function once I got about 100 rounds in. Everything from the grip size, the texture, the undercuts here is pretty much exactly what I expect from not only Shadow Systems, but we should all expect from the modern market. All modern manufacturers should be giving us these options, those accelerator cuts up front, aggressive grip texture, double undercuts. All of these things should pretty much be standard on pistols at this point, at least in my opinion. Even my buddy Jonathan over at Tactical Toolbox got a piece of the action on this one, and he's normally not a big fan of smaller pistols like this, and this is what he had to say.
way better than the original. Yeah. The grip makes all the difference, man.
Yeah. So as you can see, even Jonathan could notice the difference in the controllability and the muzzle flip of this pistol due to the added grip and of course that compensator out on the end. Now when it comes to the trigger, this is a duty style carry EDC style trigger in here. So it's going to be in that 4.5 to 5 pound range, and that's pretty much where I like to stay when it comes to a defensive style pistol. It's not meant to be super custom race gun light. I think some people kind of get confused there, but overall that mostly flat face design definitely feels better than a factory Glock trigger, but you're going to have that 4.5 pound kind of combat trigger weight, and that's just where it's at. Now, if you want to mess around with connectors and stuff, that's completely up to you. How about we take a close look at this and go over some of the basic specs and of course put the trigger on the gauge. All right, let's go ahead and knock out what we are going to get with the CR920XP right here. You get your typical standard box, right? And you will get your Shadow Systems kind of nylon carrying case. This is pretty common. I think they give this with just about every pistol except for the Foundation series. So a couple of additional areas in there to stick more stuff. You'll get a lock, you get some paperwork, you get a little punch tool which comes in quite handy since this is a Glock clone. You get your instruction manuals both for the pistol and for the compensator itself, and then of course your mounting hardware for the optic, some areas for additional magazines in here, and overall a solid little carrying case should you not have one already. So when it comes to size and specs and all that, this is going to weigh 21.2 ounces unloaded. The height is going to be 5.18 inches. The width overall here is going to be 1.05 inches, and then the length complete is going to be 7.18 inches. And it is nitride finished, obviously, if you couldn't tell by that slide. And then you will get the Shadow Systems steel magazines. You're going to get a couple of these with this pistol, and you can buy more if needed or wanted. Of course, you're going to get that sandpaper style aggressive grip texture all the way up the back strap there, all the way across the front. You get the Shadow Systems Gen 4 style magazine release. Double undercuts right there on that trigger guard, so it's nice and comfortable. You get that nice high grip. You're going to have those accelerator ledges out front with that same sandpaper style texture, single slot accessory rail, and then the gated comp here. So this is not a threaded barrel. This fits over some locking lugs on the barrel, and then it gate locks on, so very good. Those serrations, some lightning cuts in there, aggressive serrations across the top that you can see, and then of course those night vision style sights that are very low because this thing has a very deep cut, and those sights are usable through the optic on there. And then of course that Shadow Systems barrel, and I'm running this with the Vortex Defender CCW. This is the new variant, gives you all the good battery life. Awesome. I've got several of these things and I've been liking them a lot more. Again, I'll have information for all that stuff over at the build list. And of course that's Streamlight. That is the Glock version of the TLR7 sub right there. So overall good. Let's check that trigger out. That's a kind of standard striker fired take up wall and a break. Here's your reset right there and a break. So it gives you that Glock tactile kind of felt reset and break that you are used to. But let's see kind of how this thing pulls on the gauge. 350 to 4-ish hundred rounds on it right now. Again, thank you to the Patreon that sent in the new Lyman digital gauge. Those guys are so awesome over there. If you're interested in that, it'll be linked down below as well. All right, we are ready. I'm gonna try and keep this on the same place on that trigger, although that thing likes to roll. It's kind of tough. Okay, so that broke at 4 pounds and 14 ounces. Let's go for another. Make sure that cocked all the way. Kind of hard to get this thing rolling in that same spot. All right, 5 pounds, 4 ounces. Get it going again. So it likes to roll right there. We go. All right, so 4 pounds and 9 ounces. So I wanted to show you something else here. Since this is a hinge trigger, right, like most striker guns, I'm gonna pull from really low on that trigger so you can get an idea of how that affects the pull weight. Keep that ball down there, and so you can see that drop down to under 4 pounds at 3 pounds and 14 ounces. So Always remember, on a Glock style trigger or a striker trigger, the lower your finger gets on that trigger, generally the better pull weight you're gonna have. If you're way up here like that, you know, and it's hard because I got bigger fingers, but if you're up on the top of that frame, it's gonna be super heavy. So work the leverage on your trigger, no matter if it's a Shadow Systems or any other striker rig, and you're going to have a better experience with the trigger pull. So another thing is, you do have a slight kind of integrated factory slope into that mag well up there into the front. That will help you get those magazines in there a little bit easier than some other stuff, and it also kind of provides that little bit of a pinky ledge. Very solid overall. All right, so changes or any other problems, right? Because nobody gets a free pass here on the channel. After that break-in or that first 75 rounds, ran 100%, didn't have a single issue. Now, when it comes to changes, two things I would love to see. One, give me the mag well, right? Like, Shadow Systems puts mag wells on just about everything, and I love mag wells. Everything needs a mag well, in my opinion, right? Because it's generally only a level up. It helps with your grip, that little pinky ledge, helps with your recoil management, helps with magazine exchanges. It's generally only a level up, and I hope they come out with one or something, because I would really love a mag well in this. I think that would just be the coup de grace and would make the thing perfect, right? The second thing I'm going to say is up under here for the light. It's a one slot 1913 sized accessory rail. I would like to see at least two, if not just a full accessory rail, right? Give me multiple slots up there, because as you can see, I've got the Glock pattern TLR7 sub on here, but the TLR7A or the Flex or any of those would fit on here as well if I had just another slot. So that gives you a little bit more power behind that light. Yeah, you pick up minimal size, but having only one slot and as far back as it is on the rail can limit the lights or whatever you want to put on the end of that frame. So I would love to see those two changes, and I think this pistol at that point would pretty much be about as perfect as it can get. I apologize, I almost completely forgot to go over the price point on the CR920XP. So as this thing sits, this version without the optic or the light, obviously, it's $880. Now, I know some people may be grabbing their chest and clutching their pearls, but let's think about this, okay? Everything on this pistol is pretty much done. So if you were to take your Glock 43X or your 48 and you get the grip work done, the slide work done, anything else, you know, the accelerator cuts, undercuts, get a comp on there, probably from Parker Mountain Machine or somebody else like that, you're gonna have probably $1,500 in that pistol, whereas you can go and snatch this thing for that $880. So I really don't scoff at that price in late 2024, because if you think about just the cost of eggs and bacon and how much stuff has gone up, prices have just gotten more expensive. I don't think there's anything we can do about that. It's a US made product right out in Texas, so it's not being imported. You can't get it any cheaper, nor would you probably want it made any cheaper, right? Because if you're gonna buy a pistol at this level, you're probably gonna want that thing to be nice and made in the States. So now if you wanna see this compared against anything else specific, let me know in the comments. Keep doing it on the range. Make sure you get subscribed to the channel. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. I will see you all on the next one.